Well, let's get into the first discussion on global warming today. We'll be looking at the economy. A lot of people have said so many things about the economy, some for and some against. But then I think it will be better if we engage experts to talk to us on these issues. Today, we have a political economist. He's an expert, he's an economist, and he's going to be joining us on the conversation this morning. Dr. Ilias Aliyu is joining us on the conversation this morning. It's good to have you join us on the conversation this morning, Doctor.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right, you're welcome. Now, a lot of people have said so many things about the economy. Some people are saying that we are on the right trajectory. Some persons are saying the hurdles is so much. Some persons are saying it's nothing different than what we've been having, and what we are hearing from the government is nothing different than what we've been hearing. On your own part, as an expert, what do you think about Nigeria's economy right now as we speak?
Right. So, Nigeria economy, it's on a good trajectory. However, it does not reflect in people's disposable income, which is very, very critical. You agree with me that most of the indicators are positive. We are seeing that they are moving in the right direction, but we must also ensure that it reflects the people's pockets, and that could be a result of a lag time, because we have lead time and lag time. You know, when you bring out new policy or when you bring out new thing, or by the time new things are happening, before it will reflect, it will take a lot of time, and that's why government needs to do more. Perhaps we might be also covering a particular hole and opening another one, and that's why we must look at it critically. You recall that our inflation, a lot of things bring about the inflation. We have imported inflation. We have inflation that is the demand pull inflation. We have cost push inflation. We also have legacy problems. So you may be looking at it from the periphery, until government look at it downward to actually solve people's real problems. And the problem is not far from energy security, cost of transportation, and the cost of living.
All right. The issue of borrowing, a lot of people are saying, well, this is the economy that we have, but the government keeps borrowing. Just a few days ago, there was a push for borrowing, which is getting approval as we speak. Does this in any way affect the economy?
Right. Borrowing itself is what we need to examine critically. Critically in the sense that we have to look at it. What are we borrowing for? What's the benefit of borrowing? Why are we borrowing? What is it for? And is the borrowing part of the budget? Remember, we're running a deficit budget. And in deficit budget, it's possible that this borrowing has been captured, and I'm sure it has been captured that there will be borrowing. The onus is now on the National Assembly to say, yes, the executive, we have gotten more money from custom. We have gotten more money from FIRS. We are getting more money from fuel subsidy removal. Can we tarry a bit in terms of borrowing? This is what we need to look at. Are they actually borrowing to solve some legacy issue, like infrastructure, building of hospital, building of social infrastructure, education, the building of classrooms, fixing of road? If this is what we are borrowing for me, it's not a bad borrowing, simply because even the best of the economy globally are borrowing, and in fact they are the highest borrower. If you look at the trajectory of Nigeria also, Lagos is the highest income earner in terms of states, but Lagos also borrow more. But you also see the results in Lagos, because you see their blue rain, their rain, you can see their yellow rain, red, and their rain is coming up, a lot of things. And if they are borrowing for such focus, I don't think it's anything bad. The only problem is that, are we borrowing for capital expenditure? If yes, it's a good borrowing.
All right. If yes, it's a good borrowing. Now, one of the things that Nigerians are particular about is, sometimes Nigerians don't even understand these languages. rise in inflation, fall in inflation, borrowing, and all of that. That's Nigerian at the grassroots, in the village, in the community somewhere, that peasant farmer somewhere. What they know is the prices of commodity in the market is not affordable, as it were, or we don't have money in our hands and all of that. How can we marry this economic situation with that? At what level can we have abundance, okay, of food supply in connection with the state of the nation and economy?
Right. The fact remains that we all go to the markets, and we all go to the market to buy goods and commodities. The major problem now is that there's one thing I like to raise first, which is talks about food sufficiency. I know the drive by this government, I don't see, it's not clear to me yet, because I recall that during Jonathan, in terms of agriculture, Akiwumi, Akiwumi, the former Minister of Agriculture during Jonathan, did a lot to actually help farmers by giving strategically giving them fertilizer to make sure that their produce are coming out well, and they are buying fertilizer at very low rates. You also recall during President Muhammad Buhari, there's what is called anchor borrower. And for me, anchor borrower actually worked to an extent, even though there's some political farmers. Anchor borrower worked to an extent, to the extent that we have some level of sufficiency in rice. So I was thinking this government will come on board and still invest in those areas. It may not only focus on rice, there are other farm produce that you can focus on that Nigeria could be self-sufficient. But the way I'm looking at it, our border is open now, and we see that a lot of food items are coming in, which seem to make the cost of food to come down. However, for me, it's like we are pushing it forward. We're supposed to do, because I recall President Bola Ahmed Tinubu during 2023 August, he declared emergency of food security. I've also seen in September also talked to Minister of Agriculture to make sure they crash the food price. This is where Nigeria's major problem is, the price of food. And if you look at our inflation basket, the weighted basket itself, 40% of it is food. So when you see inflation rise, that means food is expensive. So for me, I could say that yes, food item to an extent is coming down because of border opening. But the question is that, does Nigeria even have the purchasing power to buy it? Because the value of Naira is also critical in this case. So yes, rice has come down, a lot of prices have come down, but the fact is that what is our disposable income? And that's where even Dr. Kojewela was reiterating on that it's not enough to have a stable maybe economy. You must also grow the economy. And how do you grow the economy? Is by ensuring that citizens have more money in their pocket to actually buy. But if you look at this policy of this government also, it takes a lot from people's pocket, because you have to expend a lot, above 50% on food. You have to spend over 25 to 30% of your income on transportation. How do you now manage other sundry costs? So the government must be people's focus now, whereby they will ensure that things are in abundance and come down as expected. If we can achieve that level of sufficiency, I think people who have more money in their pockets, and Nigeria will now say yes. The most touted stability in the economy, in Naira, in inflation, increase in GDP are reflected. So until we see all these indicators, that's when we'll say yes, we are now a better economy. So people are still waiting for that period. Perhaps, like I said, maybe first quarter of next year, we'll start seeing the results, as it were.
Okay. While you were speaking, you talked about policy. You made mention of policy while you were speaking. Now, let's do a little assessment of the Tinubu-led administration as it has to do with policy formation, all right, in connection with the state of the nation and economy, and of course, impacts on the people themselves. Do you see, what's your own assessment of this administration's concern, okay, for the people as it has to do with the state of the economy. Because whatever happens, just like you were talking about it right now, trickle down to the average Nigerian. The policies that we've heard since the inception of this administration, is it people friendly? What's your assessment of it?
Right. Let's talk about the biggest of the policy, which is simply removal of fuel subsidy. It's becoming a propaganda. It's becoming an excuse for the federal government. Anytime you talked about Nigeria, they say, no, don't look at them, federal governments only. Look at subnationals. That subnationals now have more money in their pockets. But the question is that how has the subnational ensure that the money they are getting in their pocket trickle down to Nigerians and have impact on Nigerians? Those are the things we need to actually look at. Now, the subnationals are getting more money. But I can tell you, the value of the money is another problem. Because as at 2022, if you have 1 billion as a state, can conveniently construct a road, some level of kilometers. But if you have the same amount now and you want to construct, the value is a bit different. And that's why we said sometimes those states also need to come out, just like the report we got to hear from our budget that talks about the country states that are self-sufficiency in terms of revenue, and states that are managing the FAC allocation very well. There's a scorecard on that. That simply reflects that we need to do more. Government also must develop a policy framework that trickles from down to the bottom. How do I mean? We have seen successive administration that have policy framework. That's what the federal government is doing. The state is consolidating what they are doing, and the local government is also involved, and the private sector also key into it. So until this government come with that kind of focus, I recall there was a time that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu said he is going to give each state 10 billion naira for CNG buses and what have you. We've not seen the reflection of it in the economy. I also recall that the same 2023 said there's going to be a culture that each state is going to cultivate some level of hectares of land. We've not seen that result as well. So these are the things government need to be conscious about. So if you are giving more money, you must also be on their neck to guide them on what your policy direction. So for me, we have more money and we don't see the reflection. So this is the challenge. But we can actually mention some states that actually do well. Because I noticed during that period, I saw Governor Bago of Niger State procuring a lot of tractor, for agriculture. So if most states start doing that, it will reflect by now that yes, Nigeria is moving forward. So I think the reforms are good, but we must be able to manage the consequences of those reforms.
All right. While you were talking about subnationals, it reminded me of the fact that the president came out categorically to say, even during his independence broadcast, he still mentioned it, that money realized from subsidy now goes to the state governors. That's it. But we've not seen anything done from the governors, except that you are mentioning Bagur now, that has actually boosted the economy. That is one. We just heard that about 4 trillion naira will be going to the governors, all right, annually from the tax reform. Now the question is this. As a matter of fact, to be factual, with all of these issues, do you think there is a better way to channel these resources instead of sending it to these governors? Because there is this ideology of who is going to hold me responsible. You see them doing whatever they want to do, and this money keeps going to them and the impact is not felt. As an economist, what do you think? What other proper way do you think these monies can be channeled so that at least the impact can be felt in the economy of this nation? Because that's our pride.
Right. So I think the first thing we should be able to fix and correct is the issue of joint accounts between the state and the local government. So the state and local government have joint accounts. That simply means that any income that is coming to the state, and state will now determine which project is their own priority. for those local governments. For us to have an efficient and flourishing Nigeria, we must have an independent local government who gets the allocation right from the federal government and make do of the allocation for what they actually wanted to use it for. That's where we can solve it because it is clear. The what a local government needs might not be the priority list of what the states or state governors actually wanted. State governors might be looking at a project that will be come and commission that will look as if, but local government may be seeing beyond that. Maybe their problem could be roads, could be more classrooms, could be more health facilities. So these are the things. So if more money goes to the states and local government does not have their own directly, it's still more of a jamboree for the states because the states should be able to manage its own states, internal generated revenue, allocation, and leave local government to actually implement what they need to implement. And even consequently, citizen will be able to also follow the money. I recall during Jonathan and Okonjo-Iweala era, they will by every month there will be a kind of notification on newspapers that says that these are the allocations and this one goes to local government A, this one goes to local government B across the 774 local government. So citizens in that area can actually follow the money and look at it. Okay, you say you will build a classroom, we will not seen it. We can question that. But if it is still states, what have you, that simply means the Supreme Court rule that talks about autonomy for local government is still a fluke.
Okay, something came to my mind while you were speaking, and that is the issue of corruption and how it affects economic growth and nation building, especially as it has to do with people in authority into whose hands this money is being entrusted. Take, for instance, the issue of the humanitarians ministry. When Beta Edu Frost came into office, a lot of promises were made, and one or two things happened, and that vision and everything she promised was cut short. I believe that may have affected the economy in a way, as it has to do with the average Nigerians. Now, what do you think is the implication of corruption on economic growth as an expert?
Right. So I think Nigeria need palliative now than ever before. Simply because different households. In fact, you will see that the Federal Ministry of Finance, led by Wale Edo, said they are increasing the household, palliative from to about more 10 million household as well. That simply shows that Nigeria are in their need of such. I think we need to strengthen our institutions and work on our process. I think what happened during Beta Edu was institutional problem. Because when you have an approval has to pass some process. Recall, she also came to the ministry to maintain the processes. Perhaps there's a clash of interest. That's what led to her having issue. So the fact is that corruption is everywhere. Corruption is a cankerworm that is bedeviling the Nigerian economy in different areas. Until the federal government, led by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, decide to actually look into that critically. During the President Muhammad Buhari he was able to do single treasury accounts that actually reduce it to an extent. I think you need to strengthen it more, whereby every naira and kobo pass through those areas, and there will be a thorough procurement process because all this corruption comes through procurement process. They must be make sure that those things are key. And we have not seen this one of the administration, except that I do bring to even her case is not. I'm not sure. I don't know the status of it in the courts now. But we must do more to make sure that we curb corruption. Nepotism is part of corruption too. Excessive budgeting is part of the corruption too. Lack of proper social register is also a problem because most Nigerians are questioning the social register. And the government is saying, yes, they don't want to release the social register. So I think it should not be a political social register. It should be a social register that record with people's status and standard of living. maybe through just traditional ruler in the community can say, yes, this person is poor, this person is actually rich. Because I remember, was it Rwanda when I was there? There's this method which they use. Maybe when it's called that you are poor, you'll be given 2 cows this year, let's say 3 cows. And by the time you have it for 2, 3 years consecutively, you expect it to have scaled up. And they will also use traditional rulers to monitor what you actually do. So we must make sure that we bring our poverty reduction program home. It should be a bottom-up approach, not that people sit in their offices under the air condition and decide poverty reduction. It should be designed to suit people. And also, we should not use a one-size-fits-all in poverty reduction. What someone in Bayelsa needs, to survive is not what someone in Kano needs. It's not the same thing as what someone in Ibadan needs. So we must go local and understand what people actually need. Some people do not even need you to give them a handout of 25,000 naira per month. They only need you to make a feeder road in their community. They need you to make sure that fishing is in their community. They only need you to put security in their community. That can actually have much more effect than an intervention, poverty reduction that lasts for 3 months or 4 months.
Okay, Doctor, thank you very much. Now, let's look at the National Assembly now. Do you know that whatever happens as it has to do with the economy, they blame everyone. The person they have in their mouth is the president. Everybody will say, well, President Bola Tinubu, but the National Assembly also have a role to play. Take, for instance, this borrowing that we're talking about. Nobody is even saying, well, we have this on ground, this strategy on ground, or maybe this, let's say, for instance, step by step on how this debt is going to be cleared. Everyone was excited when Nigeria's debt was cleared. Was it during Okonjo-Iweala or so as a Minister of Finance? Now we are into borrowing again. The National Assembly, which was accused by some persons earlier that they are rubber stamp. I think I heard that from a very prominent politician some times back, which is an allegation anyway. Now, what do you think is the role of the National Assembly as it has to do with economic policy making, not just saying take a bow alone?
Right. The first thing is that I will agree with you largely because there is no borrowing that will not come to National Assembly. So they are expected to scrutinize such borrowings that doesn't really fit to what you actually need, doesn't fit to capital project that we want to embark on. These are the things. And beyond borrowing too, they also have the first responsibility of them. It's not even lawmaking. For me, the first responsibility is oversight function. And oversight function is key to the extent that any appropriation must actually be used for what is actually scheduled for. And whoever abuse that process or did not use it as expected, should be bring to book. These are the things that we expect National Assembly to do. They should do their oversight function. Not only National Assembly, also State Assembly. Once there is an appropriation and the money is released, they should also follow it up so that those things are actually carried out. Imagine if all our borrowings, if all our budgetary allocation are actually doing what they said they should do. By now, we should move beyond this. Though we have a lot of debt servicing that is still taking a loss from what we are supposed to use for social infrastructure in Nigeria. But by and large, I think the National Assembly needs to do more to carry out their oversight function. If you appropriate, if you approve a budget, you should also do well to follow it up to make sure that it is expended for what is actually planned for.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Ilias Aliyu. He is a political economist and human affairs analyst also. We are so glad to have you join us on the conversation this morning. Well,
thank you for having me.
All right. As it is, this is going to be the size of the first conversation. The second conversation will be coming in after now. Please stay with us.